just a minute. All right. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Danielle Ball, and I'm a librarian in the Business and Economics Department at Los Angeles Public Library. Thank you so much for being here. If this is your first time tuning in, just to let you know, I do host these small business live streams on the first Wednesday of every month, or most months, I should say. Here at the library, we organize these live streams along with a organization called SCORE, which provides free mentorship to entrepreneurs and small business owners. During these live streams, we cover a wide range of small business topics, and today's presentation is From Launch to Likes, Websites and Social Media Basics. So we, of course, have a very interesting presentation topic today, and we have two guest presenters who I am excited to have with us, and I will be introducing them very shortly. Before I do that, just to go over a few housekeeping items. Firstly, as always, we are recording this presentation, so please just keep that in mind. If you miss any portion of the presentation or need to leave early, you can always come back and rewatch it here on the library's YouTube channel. And of course, it's easy for you to share it with any friends or colleagues who you think might get something out of the presentation. Also, if you have any questions for the presenters, we would welcome any questions you have for them. What you'll need to do is to log into a YouTube account. And what you'll do is just simply type your questions into the comment box. Feel free to submit those questions at any point during the presentation. We will be holding off on answering them until the end when we have a designated Q&A time. All right, so I am now happy to introduce our presenters. We have with us today Rob McClinton and Preeti Narang. Firstly, I'll introduce Rob. Rob McClinton is the CEO of Small World Communications, a digital services provider serving micro, small, and medium-sized businesses. He grew up watching his mother run her kitchen table sales business to help support the family. So you could say that business is in his blood. He serves on the board of several nonprofits and cooperatives. As a Chicago native, Rob holds the hope and stoicism a rabid Chicago Bears fan needs. I love that. Preeti Narang is a marketing consultant specializing in digital strategy, customer acquisition, and retention. She has worked with brands in fintech, healthcare, retail, and media, leveraging research-driven insights to optimize campaigns and drive growth. With over 20 years of experience, Preeti focuses on testing, optimization, and strategic execution to help businesses increase sales and build lasting customer relationships. And so now I would like to go ahead and hand it over to our presenters, Rob and Preeti. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having us.
It's a pleasure. We're wonderful to be able to be here at the with the library. We love libraries just like we love SCORE, amazing institutions and value that our country provides to everyone. So thank you all for having us. We are here to talk about launching your business and which includes this digital presence. That's your website and your social media, to get you launched in the right way the first time through. Usually when we do these presentations, it's about coming back and finding things that need to be fixed or tweaked to perform better. This time we want to help you get launched the right way. So we went through some housekeeping things on how to get your questions answered. And we're going to be referring to some tools and platforms throughout the course. We can definitely address those later as we go through. We have about 6 or 7 things that we want you to keep in mind as you're setting up your online presence, and we'll go through each one of those, and hopefully they'll be helpful for you. But for right now, let me hand it over to my compatriot here to talk a little bit about her background.
Thank you, Rob. Just a quick little overview. appreciate the intro from Danielle, but wanted to just touch upon kind of what I work on. I all focus on all areas of digital marketing, both sides of direct to consumer and B2B. I've worked in-house, so on the brand side as well as on the agency side, and right now I'm a consultant, so I work with quite a few different industries. And but currently work with a lot of startups, but I've worked with large companies, and I love to be able to find that intersection and taking what works for large companies, applying them to startups, and vice versa, because there's a lot that startups are very nimble and can achieve very quickly that can help larger companies as well.
Thank you. And Preeti, and just so as you know, it's coming in and out, but I think folks got the gist of the amazing background you have and the value that you can bring to the table with helping them run their business from the marketing and branding perspective. I am a veteran of the SoCal tech scene, primarily Pasadena. Pasadena is the beating heart of my professional history. I spent years working with small and local businesses as a tech, someone who grew up on the tech side, or we did a lot of B2B solutions. So I spent a lot of time going door to door to talk about these tech products we're trying to sell. But in the course of that, I would learn a lot about how small businesses in the Pasadena, LA area worked and what they needed, and just the best time to interact with them and what their challenges were and all those things. And it really just continued to fuel the passion around working with small businesses to help you be successful. So let's keep going into. So the goal of this presentation today, and we're going to go, rather we have a lot that we could cover, of course, but we want to make sure we get a lot of detail into it. So we're going to be really focused on helping you find those items that you should make sure you launch your website and your social presence with, so that you can have a strong online presence, because at the end of the day, we want to see your business thrive. And it's going to thrive by having the type of online experience and safety that consumers expect from a modern business. So there's some really easy mistakes that we see folks making. We understand why they make them. We want to help you to avoid those, so that your business can be super successful, which isn't a technical term, but it certainly describes what we want to come out of it. The biggest thing that we see where the challenges begin, or right from the start, is a lack of a plan. So in most cases, when you launch, just like with anything else, if you launch without a plan, you really kind of set yourself up for launching in the less than optimal way. But you would never open a bakery, a physical bakery, without a plan, right? You'd have to have ovens, you have to have the gas line, you'd have to have the sinks. There are all these things around that would make it work, and that people would expect from a bakery, that the regulators would expect from the bakery, that health department. There are all these things that you would think about before you open a physical location, that people often dismiss with a digital location. But those things are just as important. And because they're easier to rectify than, say, putting on a new gas line, having a sales rep to come on, like, they're easy enough to do right the first time through, that we want to help make sure that you do that. And having a plan is about being intentional about your business. And so the more intentional you are, the more likely you are to be successful, because intentionality also communicates professionalism. And the more professional you feel to people, the more likely they are to trust you to solve their problems and to give you their hard-earned money to solve those problems. So we want to help you be able to do that. So where does it start with developing a plan? Well, developing a plan, there can be a lot that can go into it. There could be a little, but here are some, I should have changed that to 4. It used to be 5, took 1 off to be more succinct. I'll fix that. The first one is, what does my website do? So what is its primary job? Now, a website's job can be a lot of things, of course. It can be your salesperson, it can be your support person, it can be your receptionist. It can do all of those things. Our suggestion here is to think about, what is your website's primary job? Do I want it to be primarily be selling things so that the shopping cart is front and center? Do I want it to be primarily the customer support for my business so that the asking questions and getting frequently asked questions answered, all those things are front and center? Am I a real estate agent? And so my website is really about my business card, my calling card, so that people can see how successful I've been for them. So then the businesses you've closed and the listings that you have are front and center. So what is the primary job you want your website to do? And the same is true of your social media. What's the primary role of my social media? Is it to drive people to my business? Is it to drive people to my website? Is it to give people a better view as to how I think and act so that they can know who they're dealing with and build a relationship with? So thinking about what that primary job is. And then if you're already up and running, what is the demeanor and conversational style of the person who does that job now? Now, that person could be you, which is fine. But if you're having some success or people are responding to you positively, how are you communicating? How are you presenting yourself in that business? Is it more casual? Is it more laid back? Is it very buttoned up and professional? What are those things that go into how you communicate? Because you want to keep that in mind, because that will impact how your website and your social presence should communicate as well. You want consistency there. The next question is, what job do I want my website or my social media to start doing? So if its primary job is to be the salesperson, what's the backup job? Just like you in your business, everyone has to carry more than one bucket, right? So what is the other bucket that we wanted to do? Now, that's not because we want to split the focus. It's because we want to think secondary. So if it's sales, 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 when you get to the bottom of the page and they haven't bought, they're probably not going to. So what's the other thing that's going to be? Maybe it's marketing, gathering information, customer support by sending them out, sending them into a contact flow. So you want to think about what that second job is, and then understand who is buying from you and why. Who is my ideal customer? Who is my current customer? Or the actual customer? Because there is a difference between who you think would be interested in your product and service and versus who actually is. And if you're already up and running, who has demonstrated they are interested in your product and service by actually buying from you, which might also be different than who you want right down the road. So having a feel for that range of customer base is important, because it'll guide how you talk, how you direct, how you promote, and how you market your business moving forward. And all of those things feed into the structure of your website and your social media presence. And then your social plan.
Hopefully my audio better this go around. Let's talk about socials. So as Rob walked us through understanding the why and the reason behind your business and what you're doing with your website, you want to ask the same questions of yourself for social. So as you go to assess your social plan, you're looking to identify, like, which platform should I be on and why? Why should I be on this platform? And we get a lot of questions about, should my business be on the latest and greatest? Like, there's so many new platforms that keep coming up, and everyone suggests you be on one platform or another. Maybe it's TikTok, maybe it's Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, X. It all goes back to those questions from the previous slide, which is understanding your customer. Where is your customer? Where do they live? And what you can start to do as you're determining your social plan is assess and look at like just your stats for each platform. What does engagement look like? What does traffic to your site look like? What do conversions? And look to see, does adding another platform make sense for you and for your business? Really, it goes to, what's the ROI of what's your return on investment for adding another platform? It's time equals money. So it's your time. And as a small business who's just getting started, it's probably just you that's working on each of these platforms, and they're useful, they're helpful to be on because that's where your customers are and you want to engage with them. But you also need to assess and make sure your customers are actually there, and look at the stats, look at what your numbers look like for each platform, and that will help you identify and determine whether you should be there and whether you should double down and put more effort on one social platform versus another. Now, if you do decide, say you want to double down and continue focusing on one platform versus another, set yourself some goals. And what is that goal for the platform? Because each operates very differently. So if you're selling to other businesses, your goals are very different than if you, say, have a bakery and you're selling to customers. So my recommendation is what you want to do is set goals for each platform. So if you're on Facebook and you want to drive awareness, look at reach and clicks. If you're on Pinterest and you want to drive sales, look at website visits, orders. If you're on LinkedIn and you want to drive visits, you do the same. You can also look at how many leads you're getting through LinkedIn. And look for yourself with which of the success metrics are important to you. So engagement, is it clicks, website visits, leads, sales, and then your course of action would be to pick a couple metrics. So pick 2 metrics for each platform and monitor them over time. Look at them every month or every week, depending on how frequently you post, and see how they're changing and how the performance has changed. And if you are seeing really good engagement, so you're seeing a lot more clicks, you're seeing a lot more people commenting on posts, that would be a great time to keep looking at these metrics and trying to maybe post more and change your strategy if you're not seeing it actively. So hopefully you can still hear me okay, but I wanted to make sure that as you're looking at socials, make sure you claim your username and your page for future use. That is ever so important. If you have, even if you're not going to be on the platform, just claim the page and hold on to it. The other piece I want to make sure to mention related to socials is make sure you have admin access to all your platforms and don't share logins. You can assign permissions at different levels, but as long as you're the admin, you have access to everything.
So Preeti,
you want to be able to own.
I think it's getting a little spotty. Maybe do a reset on it. I can cover this part for you while you come in and out.
Perfect. Thanks, Rob.
No worries. So in this area here, so a lot of folks have make the mistake of having just one login for your social media platform and then sharing that with the person who then takes over the social media for you. That's a huge risk, very huge risk. So what you really want to do, most platforms will allow you to assign now these days different roles within who runs the business side of your social accounts. So you can have someone as a social media manager, for example, someone who can post, and you can decide upfront what it is they can or cannot do, and that will give them access to be able to do just those things. So in the case of if the relationship changes, so they find another opportunity or something like that, you don't have the keys to your social media kingdom for that account just floating out there. That's a huge risk that you just don't want to have, and you don't need to have, which is the most important thing. So don't share the administrative login. You are the super admin. Keep that information to yourself, as you should with all of your administrative logins, and create separate lower accounts. They're still powerful. They can still do a lot of things. They just can't do everything, and that's key. Okay, so then we get into the plan for your website. So now you have an idea how to set up the plan for what it is that your website's going to do. You want to align your website. When you think about building the website, the structure of the website and what it does needs to match the role that you've given it. So if it's a sales specific website, then what's available on the website and the funnel of how people go through it from one section of the site to the next should align with that. You also want to decide what platform you want to host your website on. And you have a lot of choices here, just a lot. So there, at the very top of those choices, there's self-hosted, which means that you go to a company like Small World or GoDaddy or DreamHost, and you say, I want to put up my own website. Usually that's going to be like a WordPress site for the most part. And you're going to set up the account and it's going to be self-hosted and you will be responsible for it. Or you're going to go to a platform like Hosted WordPress or Wix or Squarespace or something and set up an account there. The big difference between hosted versus a platform is on a platform, it's the equivalent of putting up your bakery, let's stick with that, on land that's owned by someone else. So you're leasing the land and you're setting the bakery up on top of that. The foundation, the structure, the gas line, the sewer line, the electricity, though, that's all, you have to do all of that working with the landlord. So I guess a better example would be setting up a bakery that's in a mall, or so whether it's a larger mall, whatever, that there is a landlord who decides about the connections. There's a landlord who's responsible for all the piping, the plumbing, and all of those things. So that's a platform. The upside to that is you don't have to worry about those things. The downside is that the changes you can make are limited to what the landlord will allow for a number of reasons, right? So that's with a hosted platform. Self-hosted is you get to make all the decisions that you want because it's pretty much you're serving your server space. The downside is that you're responsible for everything that happens, right? So making sure that the website is backed up is on you. Making sure that it conforms with all regulations, all these other things, that's on you. Making sure that it's running fast, that's all of those things are on you. So the price of flexibility is responsibility. And if you don't want to carry as much responsibility, the price of that is going to be less flexibility. So those are the two main differentiators between working with self-hosted versus a platform. So the other actions you want to take here is determine what is your site's job number one. We talked about that. To make sure that your website is performing its best, you want to remove as many items and sections that don't support your website's primary job. So adding, and I understand the lure of wanting to add things to your website to make it more engaging, to make it more fun, to make it more playful, all those other things. If those things don't support doing the primary role of the job, the price of those things is slowing the job down. And I don't know where your website's job number one is going to be, but I'll tell you what job number two is. And job number two of every website is to make job number one happen fast. If your website does not load within a couple of seconds, and that's at the far end, people will then start to decide whether they want to go someplace else. So your site loading fast is core, regardless of whatever its job is. So you decide what job number one is, but job number two is to do job number one as fast as possible. Okay, so then we get into some of the pitfalls to avoid when you're setting up your website. So there are three big ones that happen. One is the colors don't fit the business, the brand, or each other. So there's a lot of conflict there. There are just all different kinds of fonts for days. And while you may think that this font looks just like that font, there are subtle differences to it, and that people will notice if you have them, especially if they're close to each other. So never underestimate the human eye for being able to tell the difference. I mean, don't forget that, we evolved over thousands of years to be able to tell if that berry over there is going to kill us or if it's going to help us. So we can pick up very subtle differences that we may not even think about, but we see that they're there. Or you've chosen some images for the website that, again, don't fit your business, don't fit the brand, or they conflict with each other. And all of this matters because it creates brand confusion. Your business has a brand, and what you put out there about your business is the brand that you're creating in people's minds. If there's a conflict between this family-friendly feeling that you give over here on one side versus this other page, which says, 20-something singles, that there's conflict between those two things, people are like, well, what is this? What is this business about? What is its focus? So it's hard to build trust with the business that doesn't seem to know itself. It screams unprofessional, and it makes people confused. And a confused consumer will never become your customer. So you want to reduce confusion as much as possible. Okay, so the basics. I'm going to keep this high level because color theory, you can go down such a rabbit hole around color theory. And you may think like color theory, like what is that? Take a look into it, and online, and then you'll be back 3 hours later, and you'll know what I mean. It's definitely a rabbit hole, but don't get lost into trying to find the right color for your business or for your website. That's why we put this chart up here. I think I wanted you to see that regardless of what the color is, there is an upside. Every color has an upside to it. So at the end of the day, pick the color that makes you most proud of your business, that makes you most proud to have people come to see your business, that makes you feel great about running the business, right? If you just love purple, and even though you think that blue is the right color for your business, but at the end of the day, you feel better about it being purple, then make it purple. Make the decision and move on. Go to a color wheel like the one we have listed, the link we have here on Canva, and you want to find the complementary color that goes with whichever one you choose. So if you choose purple, you put in the code for that purple. Colors are mathematical, in their mathematical relationship to each other. So you put in the color that you want, and then it's going to spit out a complementary color for you. That color is very different from the one that you just put in, but it doesn't compete with it. So it's complementary, but it pops. That's going to be your call to action color. You want to use that color and that color alone for the buttons on your website. And it is only for sections where you want to highlight, where you want people to take action, where you want their eye to notice it. So that complementary color you should use very sparingly, but it's going to work with the other color. And then beyond that, just keep a very simple color palette. There's no reason to have really more than 3, maybe 4 colors on your website. So don't get lost in making it crazy. A lot of websites, by the way, just pick one color and then they use different hues of the same color. So hues are like how much white is in the color or dark is in the color. So it's all the same color, just lighter or darker. That's a super simple approach that I also highly recommend. When it comes to fonts, there are font matching services as well that you can go to online font pairings. This headline font works better, works great with this body font. Whatever you can also just go to pick a font family, which works together by definition because it's in the same font family, and just use that for your entire website. And when I say the entire site, I mean the entire site, with the exception of your logo because the font that's in your logo is actually an image. Everything on your site should be within this whatever font structure you have, because again, people will notice a difference, and the difference will stand out. So it'll be inconsistent, and consistency feels professional, and that's the feeling you want to create. And speaking of professional, avoid cheesy stock photos whenever you can, or like the magic photos where someone's holding up a hand and there's this glowing globe floating in it. Like, where does that actually exist? That doesn't exist anyplace. And especially if you're selling a product or service that's really down to earth. If you're selling down to earth products and services, then provide down to earth images to go along with that. People these days are looking for authenticity, and often with authenticity comes real stuff. So whenever possible, have photos of you or your team, but if nothing else, for sure, your product or service that's being used whenever possible. That creates this feeling that they can trust the outcome that's coming because the photos are real. The other thing I want to point out is that usually when you go to the stock photo sites, you find that one that's like, oh, I love that photo. That photo looks great. Well, a lot of people are saying that about that photo, which is why you see the same photo or the same image or the same models on all of these different ads and billboards and things like that. Why? Because it's a great photo, but it's available for purchase by anyone, which means that it stops standing out. So whenever possible, use stock services that are specialized, where you can either commission a photo which is another great way. Go to a small business, people who take photos for a business, and commission photos that are unique to your business, or go to smaller sites that use very bespoke sets of images, so that your site has the authenticity that you bring to the table with it as well. And then on the social side, are you back with this, Preeti? Oh, you're mute.
I am back. Thank you, Rob. Hopefully you can hear me much better
Yeah.
now that I'm on mobile. But it is kind of, you were talking about of keeping your site authentic. You want to keep it authentic to the look and feel of your social media as well, because we've all been there where you see a really great ad or a social post and you go to the website and it's a complete mismatch. So you want to make sure everything's in line, the look, the feel, the colors. I mean, unless you're doing a test and testing different types of branding, that's a whole other scenario. But as you're getting started in creating your social content, and if you're running any ads, you want it all to be harmonious. You want the colors to match the just the personality, the style. Everything that's being promoted should also match. So if you're promoting a holiday offer, a seasonal offer on your web social, it should be front and center on the website, because you want people to convert and to purchase. So um, make sure as much as possible you can have that consistency flow through from website to social.
And then the other thing that we see is unclear. The CTA stands for call to action. You should definitely have this set up as part of your unique selling proposition. And if you don't, that will be a great place to reach out to the good folks at Score to help you with some of that. So nice little tie in there. So there are generally two problems with call to action. Either there isn't one, your site isn't telling people what it is that you want them to do, or there are multiple ones, which is also not telling people what you really want them to do, right? So if you want people to buy the thing, then just say that, buy now, purchase here, add to cart, something like that. And say that multiple times throughout the page going as you work your way down. You'll see this on other websites, and there's a reason why they do it. It's because it's effective. Because maybe at the very top, it's just a headline in the intro section. Well, that's not enough information if this is the very first time I've heard about it, so I'm not going to buy. I come down, I get a little bit more information. Maybe I'm ready to buy then, so you have the button there. Or maybe I'm not. So you come down another section where I learn a little bit more about you. Well, maybe I'm now I'm ready to buy. So there's the button there, right? So I don't have to hunt for it. But it's the same thing as I go, because the journey down the page may be giving me enough information to actually make the decision. Or this may not be my first time through. And so I just needed a little bit more. So instead of making folks continually effectively walk back to the front of the store to make the purchase, because this is a digital structure, you can bring the register to them at each step of the way.
Rob, just a quick heads up that you're kind of cutting in and out with
That's a
your
thing.
connection. So in case you do, I'll just pick up from there.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so what we recommend, identify the one action that you want people to do to take the very next step in the conversion process. So whether that's get on the phone with you, whether that's adding it to cart, whether it's downloading this thing, whatever the very next thing is, decide on what that action is. And that's what your call to action should be. Focus all the buttons on that, with the exception I will give you at the bottom of the page. Everyone wants someone to add their email address to their mailing list, and I highly recommend it. That's a great thing to do. It should come after all the other calls to actions, unless your newsletter actually is your business. In most cases, it's not. So if you're coming down the page and I've asked you to ready to buy, nope. Ready to buy, nope. Ready to buy, nope. How about we stay in touch? Okay. So that's effectively how that flow goes. If they've made it to the bottom of the page and they still haven't purchased, they're not going to. So go ahead and ask if they want to keep in touch. The answer to that will probably be yes. Okay, and then a pro tip, if you're doing a landing page where you're specifically promoting an offer, especially if you've been running ads against it to drive traffic to it, on a landing page, you should get rid of everything else, including your site's navigation. A landing page is a page that's dedicated specifically to a product or service where you want one very specific outcome. All the call to actions on that page point to that one outcome. There's no navigation whatsoever. You keep everyone going to that one place. So in that case, everything is focused on on the call to action. Ooh, that didn't work well in the PDF. So what it says is content issues for the website. Ultimately here, it's a Goldilocks situation. You either have too little content or too much content. And then it's either irrelevant, so not really sure why it's there, or it's outdated. So when it comes to your content, even with the advent of AI to some degree, even especially because of it, you want to make sure that your content matters, that it delivers value, that it communicates enough about the problem that or a situation that you're trying to address, but it's not a novel. Unless, of course, your business is selling the novels, but you wouldn't do it page by page anyway. You'd be selling the book as a whole. So you want to make sure that you demonstrate that you're a subject matter expert for whatever that is, and that the content on the page reinforces that and drives people to that same conclusion. Lost my mouse here. Okay. So how can you do that? Well, one quick way is to bring up your website to someone who has not been involved in the journey with you every step of the way, because those people know way too much to be able to answer this question effectively. Ask someone to visit your website and then give them 30 seconds. After the 30 seconds, ask them to tell you what you do. If they can answer that effectively, you're doing great on the content front. If not, you've got some more work to do. And the structure of your site, make sure that the white space basically doesn't have to be white. It just means that there's spacing between the different sections. You don't want too much of this on mobile, but on the desktop, you want to have some breathing room because it helps the eye move between the two sections. It helps it relax. When it comes to grammar, there just is no excuse anymore, no flexibility around grammar checks. There should be no errors. There are just way too many tools and systems. If there's a squiggly red line, fix that. The one exception, of course, would be using Grammarly with its the thing it has about the passive tone. Sometimes the passive tone is actually what you want to say. So that one you can ignore, but all the other squiggly red lines you should fix. And then when it comes to content, even if you're running something like a dry cleaner, where you wouldn't expect the content to change on a regular basis, while it doesn't have to change weekly, it should change at some time. I would say every 60 to 90 days at the outside. And you're like, well, what would I do as a dry cleaner? Well, I don't know, maybe as you're coming into fall or as we're coming into spring, I would love to know, how do I go about packing up my winter clothes or to keep moths away from them during the warm months? Or what do I need to do if it's fall when I take them out of that packaging to keep them fresh? Like, there are things that that you're an expert in that people want to know. And if you're stuck with that, think about the questions that people ask you. What questions are your customers asking you? That is a great source for content that you should have on your website.
On the social side of things, you'll want to look at if there's a strategy to what you're posting on social platforms. Now, what you can do is look at the type of content that you're posting. Is it relevant, useful? Is it timely, or is it just self-promotion? So in the previous example, Rob had mentioned the dry cleaner, right? If you were posting content, you want it to be relevant, right? It's not just all about um, come visit our shop, but it's useful tips of how to properly store, how to care for your items. And that type of information is really helpful. So as you're trying to determine what type of content to share, look at what resonates with your audience. Is it photos? Is it videos? Is it exclusive offers? You can do a social media only offer. If you're on the B2B side, you can try white papers, case studies. The key here it's just a test and learn, because there is no right solution. Just because someone else has done it and seems to be successful, that's their success. You have to, again, go back to those basics of what does success look like for you and for your customer, because it's all about providing value to your customer. So what will be relevant to them is what you want to focus on. And what that type of content is will be based on you testing and seeing, do they like photos? Do they like text? Do they like offers? And um, because again, as a small business, you don't have a lot of time, there's a lot of tools and resources that are available. So other videos through the library, through SCORE. But what you can do is you can use like Canva and some of the other tools to take one piece of content and repurpose it multiple ways. So if you have an article, a blog article, you can cut that down into maybe 10 different social posts, and they all link back to that same article. So you want to get creative when you're looking at what type of content you want to produce. And then as you're looking at just a plan in general, look at your posting frequency. Really ask yourself, how often should you post? Do you have a schedule? And the answers are all, it depends. You want something that's realistic, that works for you and for your audience, because some audiences, you don't need to, if you're a dry cleaner, you really don't need to post 5 times a week. But again, it depends on what your company is and what your engagement looks like and what that audience expects, and how you want to interact with them. And then again, what type of content are you going to offer? Have a special offer every month, or is it every season? Is it something exclusive once a week? And that all depends. So look at that, try to plan for a posting schedule. I like to work at least a month, if not a quarter out at a time. And you can put everything in a calendar. There's some really great free tools available, or just put it in a spreadsheet and plan out the month. So that way it's not last minute that you're trying to scramble and figure out what to post. The key is to get ahead of it. So that way, as you know, we're now into second quarter. What's happening in spring and what can you plan for? And then the next slide is really about tracking, right? You want to be able to track how your content's performing and what else can you do once you have high performing content? So use the insights, look at the analytics that are provided by each platform. If you already have Google Analytics, that's also helpful, or some sort of a analytic tool on your website. Pair that with analytics that are available through social platform, and that'll help you understand what's working, what's not working. And then if you see some posts that are going really well and you're getting a lot of strong engagement, that might be a really great opportunity to run a paid ad, and you can boost it. Go to Facebook, you boost that ad. LinkedIn, all of the platforms give you the ability to take a post that has performed really well, or not so well, but be able to post that to reach a wider audience that you would have not reached through organic methods, or because our audience is it's just too small at this point. So key here is plan and look at your analytics and take action based on that.
All right. The other issue we've seen with folks is around the about page, the humble about page. Now, this is often, in many cases, the second most visited page on a website. Fun fact. So the biggest problems with an about page often is that people don't have one, or they make the mistake of making actually about you. It only has video and no text. It's too short, or it's a novel. This is the library. We love novels. Novels are great, but not when they're in the form of an about page. So it matters here because people want to know who they're doing business with, who they're contracting to solve whatever the pain point is that your business or service addresses. And so having an about page helps them to understand who you are. The trick here is that it's who you are and what you do in relation to the pain point that they need solved. So they need this problem solved. They've got this service that they need. Your question is, this is me in relation to solving that. This is why you can trust me. This is why I'm an expert in this area. This is my background that brought me to this area. So every business has a story to tell as to why it exists and why it's there. And even if that story is, we opened this business because we didn't want our children to have to work as hard as we did to put them through school, that's still a great story to tell. And for a lot of people, there'll be a reason why they will come and choose your store over another one, because you told this heartfelt story that resonated with them. And you know what? They're like, I want to help that family do that thing because I now feel connected with them. So building that connection from human to human is really what the About page can do. We talk a lot, about B2B, business to business, and B2C, business to consumer. Really, it's about H to H, human to human, and that's what the About page allows you to build. So, biggest thing here, About page, have one. Tell your story. How did you get into business and why? Think about it as appetizer chat. You know, the kind where you go someplace, you have that, you're holding the little plate and people ask what you do, or you ask them, right? So the answer should be long enough to build a connection, but short enough so that the other person's like, okay, I need to go, or I don't have any follow-up question. You want the reaction of someone to go, wow, that's great, tell me more, right? So that tell me more means you've found a way of discussing what you do and how you do in a way that resonates with them emotionally and then brings them into your story. So relate your story to how you can solve their problem. And while I know that video feels like a great way of communicating who you are, and it is, please keep in mind that most people are visiting your website on mobile and often in an environment where they don't have earbuds or headphones on. So they may be looking at a video, but they're reading the captions across the bottom. And if you don't have any text to describe what's going on, they're just going to move on. Navigation issues, really, really quick here. The biggest problem is that either you have too many items on your menu. It's just an amazingly complex thing across the top of your website, or there are too many things nested. There's an item inside of an item inside of an item. Like every one of those things gets harder to be able to choose and select. So let's keep those at a minimum. I'm going to move through this business and legal. So this is the last area that I want to make sure we definitely touch on. So these are vulnerabilities. These are things that can put your business, not just your site and your social presence, but your business at risk. So first of all, there's no one keeping your site or server updated. That's a problem. You don't have privacy policy or terms of service. That's an issue, puts you at legal risk. Your site isn't ADA compliant, puts you at legal risk. You don't have any knowledge of how to access your site. Someone built it for you. You never got super admin access to it. That's another problem. And then your site doesn't exist. You only use social media page for your website business. All of these are problems that you absolutely need to address because they put your business at risk of being shut down. So to address it, the first thing is secure your site. So if you are doing self-hosted, going back to the beginning of the webinar, if you're using WordPress, you or someone you contract needs to make sure that your self-hosted website is staying up to date, that the software is current, that the plugins are current, that the theme is current. So you contract a company like Small World or GoDaddy or Blue Ocean or Bluehost, and you work out with them or with another independent small business developer who does this to keep your website up to date and current. There are a lot of bad actors out there that are combing the internet looking for websites to get in through, but they're not doing manually. They have tools that are combing thousands of websites automated all the time. So you want to keep it up to date. Get policies and terms. So your privacy policy, most states are now enacting their own individual privacy policies because we don't have anything at the federal level. But if someone in their state can access your website, even if you're not in that state, your business is subject to the laws of that state. So for us, we use an automated solution, Termageddon, we provided as well, that was created by a lawyer. When Utah releases privacy policies, I didn't have to go in and change anything. It was automatically updated to include Utah's privacy policies. So that's a great option where something automated works out quite well. ADA compliant. By federal law, every website must be ADA compliant. And there's just If you are not at that level, then your business is at risk because it applies to everyone. And there are a number of law firms that's kind of what they look for. So there are online tools you can use to assess the accessibility of your website. Run one of those tools and then work out with a designer or a developer how you can get any issues that are found addressed. And if you need help, feel free to reach out. Get the keys to your website. If someone built the website for you and you don't have the super admin access to it, get it. And if you contract someone to build your website for you, they should give you the keys. When we build a website for a client, at the end of the day, we give them a website owner's manual. This is something we got from another Kyle Van Durst, who's another great designer online. It has everything you need to run your website yourself. And frankly, everything you need to then take the keys away from us. Because once we're done, it's your thing. We should no longer have access unless you've contracted us to be able to run your website. And if you don't have a website, just using social media, we really encourage you to get a website. You can't control what the social media platforms are doing and what they're going to do and what they're going to give you access to, but you can control the email list that you own. So while you can get locked out of a platform or someone can change an algorithm tomorrow, once a customer gives you their email address, that is yours to do business with. So we highly recommend that you take that step and build that relationship. Okay, and then the special offer, work with us, deep dive. We want to offer this to folks who need any help. Like, I have more questions. I need someone to get in here that'll do this for us. This is that we have for you. Normally, about $549, $399 after this code. And I'm going to stop talking now so that we can get into the Q&A.
Okay, I was muted. Thank you so much for the presentation and all the flexibility when we were all having, we all had a little bit of internet issues, but I think it all worked out in the end. So I really liked that the bulk of this presentation was really focused on these like foundational aspects of, best practices instead of kind of people trying to chase what the latest and greatest, kind of thing is when it comes to their website and social media. A question, how can business owners stay up to date on best practices? I mean, I guess if it's foundational, they're not going to change all that much, but surely there are best practices to stay up to date with. And is it a matter of just networking with other business owners and seeing what people are doing, or what would you recommend?
Yeah, so that's a tough one, and it's one that we've taken to heart as well. So it's not really easy to do. So one way is, well, first of all, you don't have to do it if you have you've hired a service or a developer, someone to manage your website for you, because they'll stay up to date on that thing, on those things for you. Otherwise, there are some newsletters you can subscribe to that are specifically addressed to small businesses. We have a newsletter that's addressed to small businesses to do tips and tweaks, kind of this, but more as things evolve and grow. Score is, I think they have something along those lines, and then you have online forums and groups that you can join, either on Facebook or Reddit or LinkedIn, to try to stay on. All of these involve combing through things, right? But often, if there's something major, people will be talking a lot about it, and it will bubble to the top, and the person who runs the forum will probably push it to the top or something along those lines. So that would be one way. I don't know, Preeti, if you had any other thoughts.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. In the social space, if you're trying to manage your website, like best practices, like the foundation remains the same because it's all about the user and the user experience. But because the tools and technology evolve so much, it's really about staying on top. So, say for example, like I've seen your website hosting company will oftentimes send emails. So usually I try to unsubscribe to a lot, but there's some that are actually really good to subscribe to. So if you are running email campaigns, say with the MailChimp, they'll keep you up to date with their newsletter. If you're on Square, Squarespace, WordPress. Like if you're signed up for those newsletters, that's a easy, quick way to kind of find out about the big things. On the social side, the platforms are constantly changing and testing out new types of creative. Like their algorithms keep changing. So that one's a little bit tougher unless you're like really subscribed to kind of the nitty gritty, but there's like a lot of influencers and key leaders in the space. So if you just look at some like publications online and they'll have up to date sources. And then lately I've started to use AI a bit. So that's another way to maybe utilize AI and say at ChatGPT to give you like updates of, what's latest and greatest and what's happening in the space. But for the most part, things are moving so quickly that as long as you have your a good foundation in place, anything else is just a matter of just staying on top of it like you would the news.
Great, thank you. This one is a little bit more, I guess, more specific to a practice. Is there a best time of day to post on my social media sites? You hear about that, or best time to send an email where you're going to get the most views or the most interaction. Any insight?
Yeah, there's a lot of social media tools that will post their guide to the best times. So again, it depends on which channel. So like if Facebook, Instagram, you tend to see later in the day, where say people are at home and browsing, or like a lunchtime things peak. But it really depends on your audience again, because for LinkedIn, for example, with some of my clients, we've tend to see a spike on the weekends. And you think, okay, it's weekend, I'm going to drop work. But no, weekends are when people finally have a chance to catch up and get on LinkedIn. So really, I take the time to look at platforms. There's a lot of guides out there that you can look and research, and it'll tell you here's the best times to send email, which is usually weekdays, Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays. Fridays tend to not be so great, but you never know because it might be different for your audience. So it's really worth testing out what that best time is. But if you look online, there's a lot of guides that will give you a starting point to look at best times. And then some of the platforms also help you schedule it. So Buffer, for example, will help you optimize to the best time for your company.
Great, perfect. This is another kind of specific question about, practices. Are there programs that can auto check your site for dead links? If so, what would you recommend?
So there are. Off the top of my head, I can't think of the ones that I would put out as a recommendation, but this is a great question. And here's an example of how I'm going to use this question as content for our newsletter. So I'm going to put that in our research, the answer to that. But yes, there are definitely tools that you can use to auto check your site for dead links. I would probably just go to Google, do a search for a dead link checker, and then find one that's highly rated and that people have no negative things to say about how it does the job of scanning your website. So it's less about looking for all the positive reviews and to see, will it tax your website when it does the scan? And if it's effective, but it's also kind of taxing, then maybe that's something you do at a time of the day when your website is probably going to be receiving less traffic. So you can get the answer while also not, bringing your site down at the same time.
Great, thank you. We are pretty close to being out of time, but there is something that I wanted to bring up, and that I mentioned it in my introduction, and both of you mentioned it briefly in the presentation, and that had to do with SCORE. Could you just briefly talk about what SCORE is and your involvement in it? For our viewers, I've just put the URL to the local chapter of SCORE, which is a national organization. So I put up the Los Angeles chapter there, but just go ahead and just briefly let our audience know what that's all about.
Sure, absolutely. So SCORE it's a fantastic organization. It's from the Small Business Administration. It stands for Service Corps of Retired Executives. And so it's a group of folks, business leaders, people who have been very successful in their career, who volunteer their time for small business owners just like you to help answer your questions, to get support in making your business to be successful. So it's a massive group of volunteers across the country. There's a SCORE resources available in every state, and they are just there to help mentor people. And so you'll find people who have been marketing executives and highly successful for these major corporations who will just be giving you tips as to how to go to market. And so it's a really great volunteer group from the SBA that can really move your business to the next level. If you need help figuring out what your unique selling proposition or whatever these terms are, you can get live support that doesn't cost you a dime.
All right, fantastic overview. Thank you so much. So it sounds like, you know, the two of you mentioned you have a newsletter, there's a lot of online forums, we've got organizations like SCORE, and of course the library. We have a lot of books on all of these kind of best practices for websites and social media for entrepreneurs. So for our audience who, you know, if you're still feeling a little overwhelmed about where to start, you can give me you can send me an email. You can see up there on the screen is my email. I'll put it up here so it's a little bigger for folks. And I can just kind of refer you to any of these resources that Rob or Preeti mentioned,
We do
as
have our
well as.
contact page up on the
Yes.
website.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, you can go back and through this recording and you'll see that on their last slide, they have their contact. So just feel free to reach out. But yeah, we are just perfectly on time. And I don't see any other questions. So yeah, it was great. Thank you so much for sharing, and it was wonderful having you. And have a wonderful afternoon to our presenters and to our viewers. Thanks so much. Okay, bye.
Yeah.